There was once an artist that was so brilliant at a very young age that he was well known across his country, to the point that he even had his own art exhibition when he was barely a teenager. However, his talent was about to be cut short when he disappeared at the age of 13. This story is about David Guevara.
3 años de la desaparición de David Guerrero, el niño pintor de Málaga.
Hoy se cumplen 3 años de la desaparición de David Guerrero, más conocido.
David lived with his parents and 2 brothers in Malaga, Spain. It is said that he was a very shy and introverted kid and he didn't go out a lot. In fact, he only went out to go to his art academy and his school. In 1987, on April the 3rd, David took part in a religious art exhibition that was happening in the La Maison Art Gallery. David's painting for this exhibition was a painting of Jesus Christ called the Christ of Good Death. Due to his artistic talents, at a very young age, David had attracted a lot of attention, and he even had an interview scheduled with the local radio host after school on April the 6th. According to his classmates, he was so nervous about the interview that on that day, he was having headaches and stomach aches in school. At 6 p.m., David returned home from school to change, and after half an hour, he left for the interview. His dad, Jose, was supposed to drive him to the interview, but something came up at his work, so he had to take the bus. After the interview, his plan was to go back to the art exhibition where his dad would come and pick him up. When he left his home, he took his art supplies and a bus card with him. David's father reaches the art academy at 9 p.m. to pick David up, but to his surprise, he was nowhere to be seen. He then goes to the radio station to inquire about David, but the people at the radio station say he never showed up for the interview at all. As a last-ditch effort, he goes home hoping and praying that David reached home before him, but he couldn't find him there either. And after looking everywhere, he decides that he needs to report his son missing in the police station. After the complaint, the police started the investigation, but it's been years, and to this day, he has not been found.
Es uno de los casos policiales más extraños de España. El famoso niño pintor de Málaga no se sabe su...
During the investigation, the police's main assumption was that David voluntarily ran away. Even though the parents were very skeptical about this idea, the police believed that he might have escaped to become a bohemian artist or something. The police strongly pursued this assumption, and they even sent 2 police officers to Portugal in Lisbon, where they believed that he might have escaped to. And in Lisbon, a Spanish teacher even claimed that she has seen David. But then the police figured out that she was sadly mistaken and she was confusing him with someone else. 1 year after the disappearance, in 1988, a hotel maid in Malaga notified the authorities that she has found a napkin in one of the rooms in the hotel which has David's full name on it. The police investigated this and they found that the person who wrote this on the napkin and was staying in that room at the time was a 70-year-old Swiss tourist. Interestingly, this man had rented the room during the time of David's disappearances. The police never identified him in public, but he's said to be wealthy and very interested in photography. He had also stayed in other local hotels in the country, while also having an apartment in a nearby beach town. Unfortunately, by the time the police started investigating this lead, this man had already passed away. However, in 1990, this man's widow gave the Spanish police permission to check his photography studio. In the studio, they were finding plenty of pictures of Malaga, but none of the pictures contained David. However, the most interesting thing about this clue is the fact that the police noticed that David's last ever caricature that he drew bared a strong resemblance to the 70-year-old tourist. The story with the caricature though is not over yet, because in 2020, which was just 3 years ago, one of David's classmates finds in her mailbox this same caricature, which David has given her and she gave to the police at the time. And the police confirmed that this is the same caricature that was drawn by David and it's not a copy. And it was actually stolen from them by an unidentified individual who mailed it to David's classmate. And this is even more mysterious because only a few people know that David gave this caricature to her. And since David's disappearance back in 1987, there has been numerous sightings of David in countries as far as Ireland and Morocco. But none of these evidences have been conclusive, and to this day, David remains missing.
¿Cuándo fue la última vez que usted vio a su hijo?
Pues esa misma tarde, 6 de abril, se tenía que ir para la...
So after looking at all of the evidences, I've come up with a theory. It's a bit of a stretch, so bear with me. I think David wanted to disappear, and the Swiss guy helped him. Let me explain why. David, as we've discussed, is a prodigy, a brilliant artist at a very young age. And the case is with all these prodigies, their mind works a little differently than us. I think David wanted to take his talents to the world, and his father didn't have the money to fund this, but the Swiss guy did. And I think David met the Swiss guy through the caricature. As you've seen on the streets, people draw caricatures of other people all the time. I think David drew one of the Swiss guy, and the Swiss guy was really impressed. So he probably explained his need or want to take his art everywhere, and I think the Swiss guy helped him disappear into one of these far off places, as we've discussed, Ireland or Morocco or whatever, using his money and influence. This would explain why he's still being cited in all of these places, why no body was found, and why David's name was written by this old guy. I also think, since the caricature was mailed to his classmate in 2020, I think David is the one who mailed the caricature. So as we've discussed, the old Swiss guy, he's very wealthy, very influential. He might have bribed the police to get the caricature out of their custody, or his widow would have later on. And the police made up the whole stolen story, because evidences just don't get stolen and the police doesn't notice. So I think the widow, using their influence, or the man himself, got the caricature from the police back to David. And this would also make sense because only a very handful of people know that David gave this caricature to this particular classmate. So it would make sense that David would know this, and David is the one who's mailing this caricature to the classmate in 2020, because he saw that the case has been shut in 2016 and he was declared dead. So he thought it would be safe now to give it back to her. Because apart from him, who would know that this particular classmate is the one that David gave the caricature to? So this would explain the whole stolen thing. Sounds a bit unreasonable. So this would explain that. And also the fact that how did the classmate that David gave the caricature to back then got it again in 2020? Because David is the one who mailed it to them. And that's my theory. To summarize it, I think the Swiss guy helped David disappear. He placed him in one of these far off countries because he was impressed by his talents, and he gave him a new identity. And he also got the caricature from the police, him or his widow, from the police back to David, because David is the one who knows the importance of the caricature, because it is of the man that helped him after all. And he wanted to give it back to the classmate that he gave to back in 1987. So he gave it back to her in 2020 after looking that the case has already been closed in 2016. So he thought it would be safe to give it to her. And he's now living in Europe somewhere, or somewhere else in the world, in a new identity. And that's what I think. And with that, we reached the end of the video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about my little theory. If you have your own theory, let me know as well, and what you think about the case altogether and the way I cover it, because I'm always looking for feedback. So be sure to let me know in the comment down below, like, share, and most importantly, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you get notified when I upload a new video and you don't miss out on any of the fun, mysterious content that is going to be up on this channel in even more frequency, hopefully, in the coming days. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.